Main idea. The main, or central, idea of a text is the key point that the author is trying to make. It is the idea you learn from all the parts of the text together. Details are parts of a text that support, prove, or show the main idea. You can use the details in a text to figure out the main idea. The main idea should cover all the details, not just some of them. Theme. A theme is a key message or lesson communicated in a story, poem, or play. Usually, works of literature don't openly state their themes. To find the theme or lesson of a story, look at the main events, the characters, and the characters' goals. Use these story elements to make inferences, or educated guesses. Why did the characters act the way they did? How did they grow or change? Then, think about how your inferences apply to the wider world. The story might suggest an observation about people in general. Or, it might give a lesson you can use in your own life. These ideas and morals are themes of the story. When you identify a theme or lesson, you should be able to support it with details from the story. Author. Authors write texts for different purposes, or reasons. Common purposes for writing are to persuade, to inform, or to entertain readers. Authors persuade by convincing readers to believe or do something. An advertisement tries to convince readers to buy a product. A political poster tries to convince readers to vote for someone. Authors inform by telling readers about a topic or process. A news article explains something that happened. A recipe describes how to cook a dish. Authors entertain by giving readers something to enjoy. A joke tries to make readers laugh. A poem tries to please readers. Use text to show order. To understand a series of events, ideas, or steps, you have to think about the order in which things happen. As you read, one thing to look for is words that show time, such as next, later, after, already, and then. These words can help you see what happens first, what happens in the middle, and what happens last. Compare and contrast. Authors often compare and contrast ideas, events, people, or things. To compare is to show how two things are alike. When authors compare, they often use signal words like in the same way, both, or similarly. To contrast is to show how two things are different. When authors contrast, they often use signal words like unlike, on the other hand, or however. Cause and effect. Understanding cause and effect can help you figure out how events or ideas in a text are connected to one another. Writers often use signal words to show that a cause or effect is about to be given. A cause is the reason why something happens. Causes usually come after words like because, since, when, as a result of, the effect of, and due to. An effect is what happens because of the cause. Effects usually come after words like so, therefore, thus, consequently, for this reason, the cause of, led to, and result in. Alligators almost became extinct because people overhunted them. Cause. People overhunted alligators. Effect. Alligators almost became extinct. There hasn't been much rain, so the harvest will be small this year. Cause. There has been little rainfall. Effect. The harvest will be small. Problem and solution. Writers sometimes organize their texts to focus on problems and solutions. As you read, pay attention to what the problems and solutions are. This can help you better understand the topic and the writer's opinion. Writers often use signal words to introduce problems and solutions. They can be words like question, answer, stop, fix, solve, should, must, and make sure. People should pile sandbags around the pond to make sure it doesn't overflow. Problem. The pond might overflow. Solution. People should pile sandbags around the pond. Text structures. Writers can organize their ideas in different ways. These ways of organizing writing are called text structures. When you can tell how a text is organized, it's easier to understand how the writer's ideas go together. Examples: sequential structure, cause and effect structure, problem and solution structure, compare and contrast structure, descriptive structure, sensory details. When you write, you can use sensory details to make stories and scenes easier for the reader to imagine. A sensory detail makes the reader imagine a particular sight, sound, smell, taste, or touch. Sight: John's face was lit by glowing firelight. Sound: in the morning, Samantha awoke to chirping birds outside her window. Smell: I caught a whiff of freshly baked bread as I passed by the bakery. Taste: the sharply sour apple made Mary's mouth pucker. Touch: Ted was uncomfortable in his scratchy wool sweater. Writers use sensory details to make stories and scenes easier for the reader to imagine. A sensory detail makes the reader imagine a particular sight, sound, smell, taste, or touch. Sight: John's face glowed from the light of the fire. Sound: in the morning, Samantha awoke to the chirping of birds outside her window. Smell: I caught a whiff of freshly baked bread as I passed by the bakery. Taste: the sharply sour apple made Mary's mouth pucker. Touch: Ted was uncomfortable in his scratchy wool sweater. Similes and metaphors. Similes and metaphors are figures of speech that compare two things that are not actually alike. A simile compares two things by saying that one is like the other. Similes often use the words like and as. My sister runs like a cheetah. The sister's running and a cheetah's running are compared using the word like. A cheetah is known for running fast, so the simile means that the sister also runs fast. The cat's fur was as dark as the night. The cat's fur and the night are compared using the word as. The night is dark, so the simile means that the cat's fur is also dark. A metaphor compares two things by saying that one of them is the other. Unlike similes, metaphors don't use the word like or as. The snow formed a blanket over the town. The snow and a blanket are compared without the word like or as. A blanket is a large piece of cloth that completely covers a bed. The metaphor makes the reader imagine that the snow becomes a blanket, covering the town completely. Using similes and metaphors in your writing can help you create an interesting picture for the reader. Figures of speech are words or phrases that use language in an unusual way. Figures of speech often show important things about a text's characters, setting, events, or tone. Hyperbole is using very extreme or unrealistic descriptions to talk about something. These descriptions are usually not possible in real life. Hyperbole can show strong emotions or create humor. She flashed me a smile brighter than sunshine when I opened the door. Laura Bowers, Beauty Shop for Rent. Fully equipped, inquire within. Personification is describing non-human things as if they were people. Personification can make animals, objects, or ideas seem more human. The wind was singing everywhere in the trees. Lucy Maud Montgomery, Pat of Silver Bush. A simile uses like or as to compare two things that are not actually alike. A simile helps readers use their senses to understand a text. A tear on Mrs. Bump's cheek shone like a diamond in the starlight. C. R. Brian, Bump's Circus. A metaphor compares two things that are not actually alike, without using like or as. A metaphor also helps readers use their senses to understand a text. They were all there, silent, husky, and dry, with eyes of steel. Rudyard Kipling, The Second Jungle Book. Allusion. An allusion is a brief mention of something or someone well known. An allusion lets you suggest ideas from an entire story in just a few words. People often make allusions to mythology, history, or literature. If anyone can figure out who ate the last cookie, it's Jane. She is quite the Sherlock. The word Sherlock is an allusion to Sherlock Holmes, a brilliant detective from popular mystery stories. When you call someone Sherlock, you suggest that person can solve mysteries, just like Sherlock Holmes. Point of view. The narrator of a story is the voice that is telling, or narrating, the story. The point of view tells you how the narrator is connected to the story. There are three main points of view. In first person, the narrator is a character in the story. First-person narrators use first-person pronouns, such as I, we, me, us, my, our, mine, and ours. As I walked along the beach, I searched for shells to add to my collection. In second person, the narrator makes the reader a character in the story. Second-person narrators use second-person pronouns, such as you, your, and yours. You slowly open the strange red box. Your hands are shaking because you are so excited. In third person, the narrator tells the story as an outside observer. This observer often knows what the characters are thinking. Third-person narrators use third-person pronouns, such as he, she, they, him, her, their, his, hers, and theirs, as well as characters' names. Bernard was sure his plan would work, but Nina was worried. She wished they had talked about it more. Character action and dialogue. In a story, the characters' actions and dialogue can tell you what they are like and how they feel. Maya's face turned beet red. Did anyone see that? She stuttered. Maya is embarrassed. You can tell because people often blush and stutter when they're embarrassed. Andrew was so scared he was shaking. Still, he held his head high and walked onto the stage. Andrew is brave. You can tell because he goes on stage even though he's scared. Compare and contrast character. When you compare and contrast characters, you think about how they are alike and how they are different. Look at each character's actions and dialogue. These can tell you how the characters feel and what they are like. Solution. Brad is imaginative. You can tell because he comes up with wild ideas about the insect and where it came from. Henry, however, will look up the insect in his guide to find out what it really is. Henry and Brad are both curious. You can tell because they both want to know what kind of insect they're looking at. Inferences. Authors don't always tell you everything in a story. So, you may need to make guesses, or inferences, about what happens and why. To make an inference, look at what the text tells you. Then, ask yourself these questions. Why might the characters act, look, think, or feel the way they do? What could have caused the scene or situation described in the text? Setting, plot, problem and solution. As you read, think about a story's setting, characters, plot, problem, and solution. They can help you understand a story better. The setting is when and where the story takes place. The setting can contain more than one scene, or place where events happen. For example, in the story of Little Red Riding Hood, the setting is a forest. But some of the story happens on a path in the forest and some happens inside the grandmother's house in the same forest. The characters are the people or animals that act in the story. The most important characters are called main characters. The story is about them and follows what they do. The plot is the events that happen in a story, or what the characters do. The plot of a story is often told in the order that the events happen. The problem is something that goes wrong for the characters, or something that needs to be fixed or changed. The problem, or conflict, in a story often causes the characters to take action. The solution is how the problem in the story is solved. The solution, sometimes called the story's resolution, is what wraps up the story.